there should be a lot more money going to women in tech because the female founders are out there. When we're starting businesses, we're growing businesses, but it's not anywhere close to equal. And personally, there were multiple men that started a business that was literally a copycat business of mine years after I started it. And they claimed to be first. They claimed that it was their idea, but you could check the dates. It wasn't. And they were able to raise more money than I was able to. And went to some of the same VCs that told me no, turned around and told this other guy yes.
Hey, it's Renee. Welcome to the Into the Wild Show, the podcast for women who want to build incredible mental strength to level up their business and lifestyle. I'm Renee Warren, the founder of We Wild Women, author, speaker, award-winning entrepreneur, and your host. Together, we will make you unapologetic about shining your light, growing your business, and turning you into a wildly confident and successful leader. This is for you, the visionary, the go-getter, the entrepreneur, and for those that need a real kick in the butt to get going and to dream bigger. Each week, I bring in leading experts and entrepreneurs to help you take leaps in the right direction, because I know the best advice comes from someone who has successfully done it before. So, are you ready to level up? Welcome to Into the Wild. Hey, you wild women. My next guest is the CEO of Shoppable, which is an e-commerce infrastructure that helps brands, retailers, creators, and publishers power innovative commerce experiences from anywhere. While at Shoppable, she won the 2013 Women in Digital Award from L'Oreal and was named one of the 10 most powerful millennials in Manhattan by the Gotham magazine and one of the 11 tech gurus changing the luxury game by Refinery29. Shoppable was a 2014 Webby Award honoree for online shopping, a 2016 Webby honoree for technical achievement, and named one of the top 100 brilliant companies by Entrepreneur magazine. She also holds 3 U.S. patents for technology that she invented. Before founding Shoppable, she was one of the founding members of Affinity Labs, where she led the sales efforts from the ground up to profitability. In January of 2008, that company was then acquired by Monster Worldwide. She knows a thing or two about technology. In this episode, we chat about the complexities of being a woman in tech and how much it has changed over the last 12 years, going from being a 22-year-old college student to starting a tech company in a whole new industry, to raising money, all the challenges she's faced beyond being a trailblazer woman in the industry, to starting a family and growing the business to where it's at today. Please welcome the incredible Heather Udo.
Hey, Renee. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. We just finished visiting each other quite a few times in the last month.
Yeah, for sure.
You came from New York to Kelowna to do, is that half day coaching with Dan?
Yeah, that's right.
And then we met up again in Dana Point because you were doing what was it called?
Empire Builder.
Empire Builder. That's right. That was fun.
That was really amazing.
So cool. So you are a woman in tech. When did we meet? Did we talk about this too? I felt like when we met up for a drink here, we were trying to determine when that was.
Oh, yeah. I think we either met for the first time at lunch in New York at a founder's lunch, or it was at your house in Moncton.
You came to Moncton?
Yes.
Why don't I remember this?
It was a long time ago. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was a boardroom meeting, or it was like a 2-day thing, and then we had a dinner at your house.
Okay. We hosted a few of those. Was it when there was the shootings in town?
No.
It was before that. Anyways. Well, that was a long time ago. Gosh, probably 7 years ago?
Something like that. Yeah, it's been a bit.
When did you start Shoppable?
12 years ago.
Whoa. That is just blows my mind.
Yeah.
And how did you get into this?
I went to school in San Francisco. So pretty much anyone living in San Francisco, you're completely surrounded by tech. I was already fascinated with it, but I ended up working for a serial entrepreneur at his second company and joined the founding team. And anyway, I like to say that I essentially got my MBA by helping him build his second business. And I went there from literally, it was a PowerPoint, no funding, no money, through acquisition. And then I stayed for 2 years post-acquisition. And I really learned like all parts of running a tech business there. So it really gave me the groundwork to be able to go and start my own after.
Did you want to do technology? Or was this just like a job you applied for, you got it, and it happened to be in tech?
That's a great question. I did. I was really interested in and just fascinated by technology because, I mean, I'm 39. I'll put that out there. But I remember actually like setting up AOL.com with the discs that came in the mail, like set it up for my household and was just always fascinated by it. And it's always changing, and I really was drawn to it. I just didn't know at that point in time if I wanted to start out at a startup learning the ropes with someone else, or if it was better to start at a large corporation like a Google, or I think Yahoo was really big at the time. Those were kind of the main two that people were considering.
Wow. Okay. So then how did you come up with the idea for Shoppable?
Shortly after selling this first startup, so I was on the founding team. I was not the CEO of that one, but I had equity. So I got some additional income bonuses and whatnot from selling my shares. And I moved into, for the first time in my early 20s, moved into a 1-bedroom apartment. And this is the first time, that I had to furnish a whole apartment. So I had a lot of things I needed to purchase in a short period of time. And I was jumping from interior design magazine to their websites to blogs. And of course, trying to find beautiful rooms and figure out how to make a room come together. So anyway, of course, these are beautiful images. And I'm like, perfect, found an image. That's what I want my apartment to look like. Where do I buy the goods? And I'm sure you know where this is going, but you couldn't buy them. So then I went into Google and was trying to track down all of these different products. And I kept getting dead end after dead end. And at this point, I think it had happened to me, 6 times where I was trying to purchase these products. And I'm like, somebody has this product in stock. Some retailer is selling this throw blanket. And I'm a consumer with money, willing to spend it, trying to purchase this good, and we can't find each other. So I had this aha moment where I'm like, I feel like these retailers don't even want my money. I'm trying to buy these products. That was the aha moment because I'm like, okay, of course they do. So something's broken, right? Because would be so natural to be able to easily purchase something that you discover if it's available and in stock somewhere. So what I realized was there was a technology problem because there was no way to essentially bring the cart to the consumer and embed buy buttons within content. The only place you could shop was in a physical store or in a traditional e-commerce experience. But now, through research and surveys and stuff that we've done at Shoppable, 99% of us have experienced the same frustration that I had where we come across something great. We would be purchasing it, but because the technology wasn't there and you couldn't buy it, you abandon it. And then you're not getting the purchase you wanted and the seller isn't able to close that deal. So everyone is losing in that scenario. So I wanted to create the technology that could really enable a shoppable layer across any type of digital content and create this universal shopping experience.
So who are your customers?
We license Shoppable's technology to a lot of consumer packaged good companies and advertisers that want to create shoppable ads. We're doing shoppable commercials and connected TV now. And then we also work with mobile apps and a lot of different types of marketplaces, in particular, like different fashion marketplaces and anyone that essentially would have otherwise had to use affiliate types of links where they'd redirect to a retailer website, but now they can keep it in the site. So publishers is another big one too. So we also create shoppable gift guides, shoppable content, a lot of different types of options. It's really pretty diverse at this. And it's across all major types of products.
Now, is this in competition to affiliate skim links or something like that?
We do compete indirectly with skim links because people would typically replace their skim links with a buy button. The differentiator is that you would buy within that experience instead of redirecting away to the retailer site.
Okay, so you don't even know it's happening. The technology is just like firing behind the scenes because when you do the affiliate click through in the PR space, this is so common because a lot of publishers now, they require that affiliate link, especially if they're talking about these listicles of like, hey, this mug's on sale. Here's the link. And when you click through it, it's affiliate link and you know it because the URL code's doing a funny little dance. And and then
Right.
sends you to the right location, which is often Amazon. So you're saying your technology doesn't do that.
That's right. The benefits for our client is that they have that whole branded experience and they keep the user engaged within their site. And that means that they also get access to the data so they can build the direct relationship with their users, which is super, super important.
So nerdy. I didn't realize you were so nerdy.
Oh, super nerdy. Yeah.
So do you write code?
I do not. I do not. It's the one thing that I can't do, but I worked close enough on the product at the last company. I ended up being the internal user of a lot of our products that we were building there. So that led me to work very, very closely with our engineering team and essentially helping them craft how to build out the user experience of a variety of different things. And that gave me just a lot of understanding from kind of the front end experience of how to build things out.
That is the most intimidating thing. Because I remember living in San Francisco too for a while and working in startups, mostly doing their marketing. I was always curious about the technology, but I never understood it. I'm like, can you just make these two things work together? If I click this, the next thing should happen.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you are in the tech space. I'm assuming, especially when you first got involved, when you started Shoppable, there probably weren't too many women.
No, definitely not.
I really hoped you saved some bucks after the Cyber Monday and Black Friday deals that we just had. I know I rolled out of bed the morning of Black Friday. Get this, to a really cool sale for a company that actually makes jeans for tall women. And I got 3 pairs for $200. That is huge for me. Why I'm saying this now is because I know it's that time of year where we're either using up the rest of our budget or allocating the budget for the next year, and where the people that actually get ahead when it comes to PR, marketing, promotions, creating that authority, this is when they start to plan. Because come that first real week back of business in January, everyone's out there. And the ones that are actually executing on the strategy are the ones that are winning, not the ones that are starting to build their strategy come the new year. So if you're not a part of my Facebook group called Wild, I have the recording for my preloaded marketing year workshop in there. Go check it out. I'll put the link to the Facebook group below and you can go check out that free recording. Otherwise, I did want to say that for January 1st, I have one opening for my Sidelines to Headlines program. And this is for a very specific entrepreneur who wants to get on more podcasts, who wants to create incredible content, contributed content, who wants to blow up their social media and gain the authority that they deserve in the industry. So if this is you, if it sounds like you said, yes, Renee, that's me, then head on over to wewildwomen.com and check out the programs. We have the Sidelines to Headlines program, which is your retainer program, is the one that I have only one spot for. And then there's the VIP day. And I'm booking VIP days now, one more for December, and then the rest open up again in January, February. So if you're interested in what PR looks like for you for 2024, let me tell you, this is the game-changing strategy for the next year. I genuinely believe, and I'm not saying this because I'm being biased, I genuinely believe that those that are successful in amplifying their voice online for 2024 are those that are actually investing into PR, are invested into getting on more stages, to getting on more podcasts, to creating more content for the world to see them. So head on over to wewildwomen.com and check out the programs. So what was some of the biggest challenges that you faced, especially when you first started as a woman in tech?
So when I first started, I would say I definitely felt like I had to be twice as good and have kind of pre-planned additional value ready to go, because I felt like there were times when I was being underestimated. And could be a variety of reasons. I was young, I was inexperienced, could be multiple things you could point to. But I did really feel like I wanted to and kind of had to double down. So before a meeting, I try to make sure I was reviewing the materials, come super prepared, and had kind of key points of feedback that I had prepared to offer, or suggestions or anything like that, that doubled down the value that I could provide in that short amount of time.
Yeah, that doesn't seem fair.
Oh, for sure.
Was there pressure for you to do this, or did you just know it's something you had to do?
It was a combination. I think it started with wanting to make sure that I was being taken seriously. And then part of it was there were a couple people, and this was not the CEO, but there was one person in particular that occasionally made comments that essentially was trying to devalue, because I was the most junior person in the company. There were 4 executives and myself when it started, and I was finishing my last semester of college, while they were starting to fundraise. So I was very junior, but there was one person in particular that periodically would make quibs or comments that would kind of devalue me and the work that I was doing for the company. And eventually I pulled him aside in the conference room. I was like, I need to talk to you.
Good for you.
And I was just like, look, I get it. I'm young. I was 22 or whatever when you graduate college. And I had to tell him just straight, like, look, I'm working my butt off. I'm working 7 days a week, early to late, usually the first one in, last one to leave. And my time's just as valuable here as anybody else's. And I don't need these comments. And he was just like so taken aback and like shocked that he was just like, you're right.
He didn't even know he was doing this. That's the problem. It's so okay that these backhanded comments or jokes were made. People don't even know they're doing it.
Yeah, for sure. So it was much better after that.
It takes women like you to go in and be like, yo, don't say that anymore.
And I tried to make it a big deal. Like, look, we need to go in the conference room. I need to talk to you. So it wasn't just off the side. It was like, no, I need this to be taken seriously. And I was a junior person, but you have to voice it. Otherwise, you could be stuck in a situation like that. And that stuff could really spiral, if you let it keep going.
Were you nervous to take him aside?
Oh, for sure. I was shaking. I'm sure my voice was shaking too,
Well, you have the experience now and the confidence, but have you seen a big shift in the last 5-ish years about women in tech and being taken more seriously?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think it continues to get better. And I do think one of the other challenges for sure has been like fundraising, which we're not out fundraising anymore, but that was a challenge as well. But I do see part of it is there are a lot more women in tech and more women having successful exits and then turning around and opening doors for other women, which is amazing. And I think that really helps. Should more be done? Absolutely. And there should be a lot more money going to women in tech because the female founders are out there. When we're starting businesses, we're growing businesses, but it's not anywhere close to equal. I mean, and personally, there were multiple men that started a business that was literally a copycat business of mine years after I started it. And they claimed to be first. They claimed that it was their idea, but you could check the dates. It wasn't. And they were able to raise more money than I was able to. And went to some of the same VCs that told me no, turned around and told this other guy yes. It's hard to look at those things and be like, okay, what was it?
Yeah.
What was the differentiator? It was the same idea. Did he pitch it slightly differently? Maybe.
Okay, first of all, you guys are all trailblazers in this, the women that are showing up and taking men aside saying you can't talk to us like that. So I applaud you for that. Thank you. And then in that instance, maybe it was you came up with the idea, you presented the idea, and the investors are like, never heard of this before. But then somebody else comes and is like, oh, kind of heard of this. So like now there's another person coming. So maybe if it was switched where they had presented first and you came in second, who knows?
True.
And sometimes, I'm not saying this is the case for you, we look for confirmation bias. And I see this all the time. However, I know this because I worked in marketing sitting in these tech startups in San Francisco. And it was the most, I guess, fearful, annoying, condescending environment without them intentionally doing it.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, she has to be here because she's a she and we need this diversity. I'm capable. We're all capable of doing this.
Oh my God. Yeah, for sure. And on that point, when I was out fundraising, so many men that I was talking to and pitching would listen. Then they would stop and say, oh, let me just check and ask my wife and see what she thinks on this. I'm like, oh, why? Like, well, I want to get a female opinion.
Well, that's so interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Then the male pitched the same idea. And I'm sure he didn't go ask, because this is literally multiple men. I could tell you how many said that to me. But if men pitch them the idea, they don't need to ask their wife, but because it was being pitched by a female. So it's interesting. And I do think that's one thing that came out during the Me Too movement in tech. one of the things that came out in multiple stories where people were that it's not okay for male VCs to say that and say you have to go and talk to your wife because it's a female founder speaking to you. You can do your same research and look into the same space like you would anyone else. And there's nothing about a female founder pitching a SaaS business to a male that has anything to do with gender. We sell everything. So it's not female specific. It doesn't need to be thought of that way.
You were young when you started this, raising around.
Yeah, we raised a seed round and then built everything else with our sales.
And when was that round?
That round was 2016.
Okay. And then since then, you've had babies.
Yes.
Wow. So was the experience what you anticipated in having a funded technology company and the investors in a male-dominated industry, and now you're having babies?
Yeah, I think with my first child, I don't even know if I mentioned it until after. The people that saw me, I was very pregnant. I was going to conferences, waddling around with my pregnant belly. So the people that saw me knew I was pregnant, but anyone else, I don't think I even mentioned it until afterwards because I was like, I'm not going to be able to let it affect my day-to-day. It's just part of being an early stage tech founder at that point in time. And I also think part of the challenge too for us as female founders that do start families while you have a startup, you fight the stereotypes on that kind of stuff too. And just, you didn't want investors to think that I was going to check out or that I was going to be disappearing or that, well, now she's done because she was pregnant. She's probably just going to stop her startup or she's probably going to just sell it or, whatever, or who knows what they were thinking. But I didn't want there to be any type of stereotype around what I was doing. So I think we kind of have to fight that too. Could I have taken some time off? Yeah, but I didn't because I just wanted to fight against any type of stereotype.
We also have to look at the circumstance that I'm assuming there weren't any issues with pregnancy and birth.
No.
Because we don't know. You just don't know. And I have women who are super masculine and they have their businesses and they have their babies and they're like, I actually don't want to do the business thing anymore.
Yeah. Oh.
We have no clue of what it's going to do to change us. For me, it was back to work right away. Both times. And the second time, obviously, it was a little bit tougher. But yeah, there were all of my clients. So even in the PR space, all my clients were funded tech companies. They were all dudes.
Yeah.
That was tough. Luckily for me, I had a co-founder who didn't have babies and my team were all younger. So no one had babies. I could duck out and they didn't feel like things weren't going to happen. But I was still participating and doing my part. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be showing up and working and being on those meetings. But it is a challenge. I really do want to talk about the theme of this show being an important skill. So there's probably very unique answers to this question, but for you in particular, given how young you were, how long ago it was when you started your startup, what do you think after all these years is the most important skill to have as a woman in technology?
I think it's your determination. You have to have relentless determination for what you're building and for your goals. Every founder, every entrepreneur is going to face obstacles. And there's never a straight line to success, right? So I think in particular for female founders, there's going to be additional challenges of a variety of types that you might run into that is going to just increase the amount of determination that you need. And you need to kind of know if you're someone just getting into it, you kind of need to set your expectation of that and know what, it's just a bump and we're going to plow right through it. Or if it's a really big bump, you might give yourself a day or whatever moment you need to get through whatever that challenge is, but still be determined to find that way through it.
So what was it for you that helped you get through those moments?
For me, it was in the early days, I would say, is the conviction for this idea and the technology that this is the direction that commerce is going. And we have been first to this space and we've got 4 patents now on the technology because we were first, which is really cool. But I knew that the space was coming. We were early. And I'm like, I am going to be here and have my business still here and growing when the space opens up and when everybody kind of catches up with where we were with the idea. And I didn't want anyone else to come along and copy the idea and come and take credit for it and take off later. So I was just determined to do that. And I think as it's gone along, that remains. The determination is still there relating to the idea and just seeing it brew to fruition. But I think the other piece is just remembering what drives you. And, when I first started a company, I was single living in New York. Now I'm married. I've got 2 kids. They're amazing. And a big part of me, I started it for my future family. And it's cool now I have them and I'm operating and my kids can see what I'm doing. They hear about it. They have learned a lot too. And it kind of gives back in a different kind of way.
I love it. How do you build that determination muscle?
I think part of it is keeping your goals really clear and kind of referencing them back. I would say try to reference them back daily and what progress are you making towards those goals. And that kind of helps you stay on track. And I think the other piece, and I kind of mentioned this a minute ago, is everybody has a bad day. I've had some really, really low days over the last 12 years. But what I've tried to kind of set a rule for myself is like, if you have a bad day, that's okay. And if it's a bad day where you just like can't function because like something went really, really wrong or, whatever thing could happen, I give myself a maximum of 20, you have one day, you have 24 hours or you have the rest of the day to sulk, feel bad for yourself, vent to someone else, meet someone at a bar, do a shot, whatever you need to do, have a dirty martini with a friend, whatever you need to get through that. But you get a day and that's it. And then the next day you look forward and you figure out, how do we get over this bump? How do we progress? Because continuing to dwell on it and vent or complain or victimize yourself or like whatever, it's just not productive. And it's only going to make whatever that bad day was about continue to hold power over you. So I think that's an important piece of it too, is understanding how to handle those bad moments and how to move on from them.
I love that. So that happened in my life a handful of occasions. The first time this was ever presented to me, I think I was 21. And in the summer times, I'd go home from college. I'd stay at my parents' place, get a job, actually started a restaurant. And my first love, like the first love of my life in college days, broke up with me. And I was devastated by it. I sensed that there was something that was coming up because there was even like, I wasn't feeling it. All that to say is I was moping around, as my parents would say, "You're moping around." And my dad would just let it be. And my mom came into my room one day. It was like, I don't know, day 3 or 4 of me just being completely like sideswiped by this. She's like in her French voice, "Renee, you got to stop this. By this time on Tuesday, you're not going to complain about this anymore." And I was like, how dare you tell me how to feel? But I didn't realize, like, first, I'm heartbroken and my mom is insulting me. It was one of the best lessons that I ever got initially about not dwelling on things.
I love that.
It was good. And then the second time was with my husband. So my last agency, my business partner, who was my best friend at the time, she just randomly got up and left the business, signed over all of her shares, walked away from a highly profitable company that was fun to run. I couldn't figure out what was going on. I was like, was it something that I did? Like other stuff was happening in her life I just didn't know about. It was on a Wednesday morning when this happened. Same thing. It was like Friday night and he turned to me and he's like, pick a day. What day, what time are you not allowed to talk to me about this anymore? And I'm like, Tuesday at noon. And I was like, I would just let it all out over the weekend. I would complain about it. Something came up. And then when that moment came with him, no longer talk about it. The anti-dwelling perspective is such a great method, helped so much. And then the other one that it was really big for me was when I was launching the podcast. Same thing. I would talk about it. It's like, ooh. I actually shared a post today on Facebook about how talkers talk and doers do. And there's a difference between the two. And which one are you? My God, that just sounded like Dr. Zeus. And I'm like, I think it's great to talk through your ideas and emotions, but there's got to be a point where that talking turns into doing.
For sure.
Because then you just build this reputation around yourself of being a person that just talks. And that's boring. We all have great ideas. It's the people that execute on one thing and do it like you obsessively for an extended period of time. That's when they see success.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So I think for any of your listeners now, I think if they've been talking about doing something or planning on it, stop and put a date. Put a date out there, whatever that is. When is it happening?
When I did business coaching, I would do that. Women would be like, yeah, I want to write a book. I'm like, cool, when are you starting to write? Like, oh, I don't know about the idea yet. And I go, put a date on your calendar that you're going to start writing.
Yeah.
And that little micro action scared the crap out of people because it means that they have to commit to it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Because it's easy to talk about stuff, but to actually do things and then to do things through the times when it's really, really difficult, that sets you apart from everyone else.
That's so true. Yeah. I was just talking to someone the other day about my podcast, which I'm going to be starting next year. And it was funny because I was talking to her and she's like, so what's going on? And I stumbled over actually saying I'm starting a podcast because I have something in the back of my mind I've been thinking about for a while, but now I've decided I'm going to do it. And it was just uncomfortable to say the words because I'm like, I'm making the commitment. And like, once you speak it, you're doing it. But yeah, so I put that out there and committed myself to doing that too.
And like the only person you fail at the end is yourself.
Exactly.
I danced around the idea of doing the 75 hard challenge for years. And I finally committed one day because I was just feeling crap. My friend Kira Foy, she has a really great saying. It says, you don't know how bad you feel until you feel good. And she's a nutritionist. If you always have a little bit of a headache, you're always a little bit sluggish, you just think this is just my life until you have a day you feel good. Then you realize that little headache, the little sluggishness is actually bad.
Oh, for sure. That's so good.
So when I finally committed, the best way for me to commit was to share it with my husband, obviously, but on social media. That was it. Like, hey, I'm doing this thing. Hey, I'm starting drum lessons. Hey, I'm launching a podcast or I'm writing a book or whatever. Like my planner. I said, hey, I'm launching a planner. I don't know what I'm doing, but you know what? The universe will help me out. The universe always has your back. Figure it out.
That's right.
So I have a couple more questions for you, but one that I'm dying to ask, going back to this being a female founder, is are there any specific areas where you believe having a diverse perspective, being a woman, being a mother, has given your business a competitive advantage?
It's a good question. I think it helps kind of across the board, but I think it helps with personal relationships. And I think it helps with the relationships that I've been able to build with retailers and with brands and with publishers and these advertisers, because I always taken kind of a softer, more feminine approach to it. Whereas again, a lot of our competitors were like, that's going to take too long to build a relationship. I'm just going to scrape their website and hack it together in my garage. So I think things like that, like part of it has been creating more value. Then I think part of it is you're coming from like a place of more understanding of people's on an individual level. I think because it's more like biological, that the way that we think about our family and the way we think about other people and the variety of different responsibilities and things that people are juggling. I think from an interpersonal perspective, I think that adds additional value to your team. And yeah, I think that goes back to the relationships that you're building. I would say that's what stands out for me.
Yeah, and women nurture.
Yeah.
And we understand relationship building is crucial and it takes a while, but we're okay with that slower progress.
Oh, for sure. And I would say the other thing that comes to mind too is majority of consumption and purchases are done by women. So being the person who does the majority of the purchasing for my household certainly helps, and having different buying behaviors, and then also being a person that is running the household from that perspective, as far as like all the different purchasing that we have to do, having that purchasing power and then a demanding job kind of elevates what we need to do and how we think about convenience with purchasing and commerce and e-commerce and all the different things that we're testing out too. That brings another perspective too that I think is beneficial.
I love it. And I just had like a little download, the foreseeable future when it comes to tech. We're going to have more women that are on the other side as investors, advisors too, sitting on boards. And they're going to be scanning these companies for that balance, so to speak, of having that women team. It's been proven politically and in those top like Fortune 500 companies too, that when there are more women in positions of power, governments, countries, companies, they do better.
Yeah.
We know this.
Exactly. The data is there.
Okay. So any last little piece of advice you want to add with regards to the most important skill to have as a woman in tech?
Yeah. I mean, I would just say, don't give up and keep going. My favorite graphics, and maybe some people have seen this too, but one of my favorite graphics that I saw is a miner kind of digging through a lot of dirt and rocks. One of them gives up, then another one keeps going, and you don't know how close you are to the diamonds. The one who gave up was almost there. So I would just say, like, keep that in mind. A lot of the times the difference are that people keep going when it gets tough and you keep pushing through instead of stopping because you just don't know how close you are.
Yeah, and they say the last mile is never crowded because people give up. But guess what happens at the end of that last mile? It's the last mile. It's the end, the destination. Okay, one last question for you. When I ask you what it means to be a wild woman, what is that?
Ooh, to be a wild woman, I think means being able to confidently be yourself and not have to be anyone for anyone else.
I love it. You are such a shining star, Heather. I've had such an honor getting to know you over these years, and especially as of late, hanging out.
Yes.
I love it, love it. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So there you have it. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Into the Wild. To make this girl happy and to help reach other women who are dreaming of starting their business, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and everywhere you listen in. Also, if you want to find me in the wild, check me out on Instagram at Renee_Warren. That's RENEE_WARREN. And leaving you with one of my favorite tips of all time: the best advice you could ever receive is from someone who has successfully done it before you. Until next time, ladies, peace out.